Okay, good evening, everyone. How we doing? Hope you had a good day today. We are had a good session yesterday, and Pastor was doing some questions at the end, and we talked about Genesis. We talked about creation a little bit, looked at that a little differently. We talked about the importance of our thoughts, feelings, speaking, and actions. We talked about how we listen and how important that was. So we went over quite a few things yesterday, but I want to see if we uh, have any questions, and then we'll see where we go from there. Any questions about yesterday? Anything that we went over? Okay, Charles, are you on this evening?
Yes, sir. I'm on.
How you doing, Charles? Good.
I'm doing
Um,
good, man.
have not forgotten about you, man. You asked a question a few days ago, and from Luke 12, I believe it was.
It was.
Okay. What is? I know it was verses 51 through 56. Charles, was there any specific thing you wanted to glean from that? What was what brought you there? If you don't mind
Well,
sharing.
when I think uh, uh, JC, I'm not sure what George out of Philly, DC. Anyway, uh, I wanted to know, was this verse right here is telling us that Jesus, will it be a uprising against father, son, mother, daughter? I mean, if this verse is telling us something, if this verse just been written in the Bible, what is it telling us? Because I know it's something more spiritual about this right here, but it ain't. It's saying that we're gonna be against each other, but I'm trying to figure out what is it telling us.
Okay, thank you, sir. Has anyone looked at that? I know Pastor has, and I'll get to him in just a second. But did anyone else see anything in those verses that you'd like to share? Okay, Pastor, what do you see here? What is
Um,
share with us what's going on here, please?
there is a clear message about this in in the Message Bible. So I just want to uh, read that for a moment, okay? The verse that Charles was talking about begins with in the Message Bible. It says that I come to start a fire on the earth. How I wish it were blazing right now. I've come to change everything, turn everything right side up. How I long for it to be finished. Do you think I came to smooth things over and make everything nice? Not so. I come to disrupt and confront. From now on, when you find five in a house, it will be three against two and two against three, father against son and son against father, mother against daughter, daughter against mother, mother-in-law against bride, and bride against mother-in-law. Then Jesus turned and said, when you see clouds coming in from the west, you say storm coming, and you're right. And when the wind comes out of the south, you say this will be a hot one, and you're right. Frauds, you know how to tell a change in the weather. So don't tell me you can't tell a change in the season. The God season we're in right now. You don't have to be a genius to understand these things. Just use your common sense. the kind you would use if you, while being taken to court, you decide to settle up and your accuser with your accuser on the way, knowing that if the case went to the judge, you probably go to jail and pay every last penny of the fine. That's the kind of decision I'm asking you to make. So what Jesus is saying is, I did not come to smooth things over. I'm not here to make you believe that everything is okay when it's not. And what you're going to begin to see from now on is families turning against each other. They're going to be in arguments. They're going to be challenging each other. Why? Why did he say that? Because they are going to be arguing whether or not what's happening is really happening. For example, right now there are families split over Trump and Kamala Harris, and they're arguing between each other. And Jesus says that this is what I came to do. I came to shake everything up. So he says that when you talk about clouds and stuff, you're right. When you can tell when it's going to rain, you can tell when it's going to be hot. You know how you read the change of the weather, but guess what? You don't know how to read. You don't know how to read the changing of the season, meaning that you can't read the seasonal changes. You look at everything around you. You look at everything in your environment, whether it's political or otherwise, and you cannot tell that it's time for it to change. You don't have to be a genius to understand these things. If you use your common sense, you'll see it all. If you use your common sense, you will know who is the greatest threat to humanity. You will know what policies are a greater threat than the other policies which are not. So Jesus says, this is no different than you going to court. And you know if you go to court, you go lose. So rather than go to court, knowing you go lose, you settle up before you even get to the judge. And all I'm asking you now is to make that decision. Make the decision to get things right. Make the decision to understand what the seasons are saying to you. Make a decision so you are able to not only understand, but you are able to act in a manner that changes everything. Meaning that bringing things to order. Is that clear enough right now?
Oh, yes. I forgot that latter part of it, but yes, sir, that's very clear.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, y'all?
I have one, but it's not about what we're talking about.
But that's okay. Let's make sure we're done with this one, and then we'll go to your question. Okay? Anybody
Thank
have
you.
any? Yes, ma'am. Anybody have any anything else that grab your attention about the verses that Pastor read and Charles asked about? Anybody?
Ron,
Yes, sir.
I wanted to add to it. It letting us know now. We going through it now with this election and stuff. We going through it. We've been going through before this election stuff come about. But now I understand here what's being said in that verse.
We have examples of it all around us, Charles. The violence of family members here. I don't know a time I've seen last couple of years like kids killing their moms, those sort of things. You see chaos in Ukraine and Russia, and you think about it, those are the same people. Those are the same people. Same thing a pastor pointed out to us that's happening in Northern Africa. that area they want to call the Middle East, but I refuse to call it that. It's Northern Africa. Those are the same people. Those people are related. So we have many examples of it all around us. But anyone else? Okay. Okay, then. Evelyn, did you have a question?
Yes, sir. It's harvest time. It's time for harvesting. Like the question is, how does that align with what we're doing now? Are we harvesting? What is it that we're harvesting? That's my question.
Okay. Class, anyone care to address this question? Go ahead,
Yeah,
Pastor.
sure. We are sowing seeds. When everything began to manifest, that's the harvest time. It's no different than putting a seed in the ground. And that seed stays there out of sight. No one knows that seed, what that seed is doing. And then one sees that seed again until it reaches for the light. And when humanity began to reach for the light, that's the harvest season. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I thought about too, when my dad used to plant, we would start harvesting the potatoes and stuff like that. So in the spirit realm, there's no, is it a harvest time, or it's always harvest time?
It's not always harvest time, but it could be. And the reason not always there is because people are in denial about what's going on around them. Prior to 2016, people were in denial about the racist tropes, about the racist attitude of policies. People are in denial about America being a nation that seeks to, a country that seeks to dominate the world. Now they are not in denial. So why are they not in denial? Because seeds have been sown in the macro, and those seeds that were sown in the macro are beginning to germinate in the hearts of the people. And the germination of those seeds are showing us something. And what they are showing us is that it's not quite harvest time, but the seeds are germinating because you have, for example, some of the most conservative people in this country joining the coalition with Kamala Harris to bring her into the Oval Office as president. Once we began to see the manifestation of new policies that are for the enhancement, the growth of humanity, that is what the harvest looks like. Does that make sense?
Yes. So can you remind me, I guess, and others as well, when the scripture says, and we talked about this before, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Can you go elaborate on that again to piggyback on what you just said?
Yes. The laborers are those who are seeking to bring the harvest to fruition. Like, for example, on this, what we do every Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, there are periods in agriculture when you have an early harvest. And when you look at it spiritually, the early harvest spiritually is saying that you are bringing people into the fold. We started with about 15 people regularly when we started this journey on Zoom. Yesterday, that was twice that many. So that is a part of what the early harvest. And when they are coming in as part of the early harvest, they become laborers for the harvest that is going to manifest for the whole of humanity. Does that make sense?
It does. And I have one more question. I think I'm done.
You don't have to
Did
be,
Jesus,
and you
well,
probably,
didn't he always, didn't Jesus always talked about seeds and harvesting and the farmer?
yes,
How does that align with what you're telling us now? Is it the same thing?
yes. We are farmers, and we are sowing seeds. We're not planting, we're sowing. We plant with individuals on Zoom. We are sowing seeds when we talk about putting things in the macro. And when Jesus was talking about the seeds, or the things that was attributed to Jesus anyway, when he was talking about those things, he was simply talking about the farmers knowing the right time to harvest the plants that grew from the seeds that he sowed. So wherever we see a discussion about harvesting, about seeds, about farmers, spiritually, it's talking about the seeds that we are sowing, and the seeds that we are sowing are words. Every word has energy, and every thought, every memory you have is registered in your brain, in your mind as energy. The energy of that thought does not change unless you change it. So what we are doing is sowing the seeds of energy in the macro for the benefit of those who are seeking change. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, it does. Thank
And,
you.
Okay, no more questions?
I
What-
have one.
No, I'm done. Go ahead for right now. Thank you, Vermeil.
Mine rides piggybacks off of Evelyn's. So pruning and purging is occurring also during harvesting time. Do I have that correct?
Pruning is taking place with us. We are being pruned. We talk about how we see things clearer, and we
Mhm.
talk about how the experience, the spiritual experiences that we are having,
Uh-huh.
why are we having them? Because we are being pruned. Pruned for me to be pruned, it means that my vision of politics in relationship to humanity being respected and being taken care of, the pruning of that is a shift from my expectations for that to take place with votes. Now,
So
I have been pruned, and my thoughts have been pruned to the point where I understand if it's not done spiritually, it will not get done. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
No,
You
it
have
does.
thoughts. You have thoughts,
Okay.
and you began to realize that the thoughts that you're having are not right.
All right.
So what do? In order for you to expand on the spiritual journey that you're on,
Mhm.
you prune yourself. How do you do that? By refraining from allowing that thought to influence you to follow through with something that you know is not right. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
Now, when a tree is pruned, it is pruned for the purpose of it growing, of it producing more than what it's producing. For example, when I prune my roses,
Mm-hmm.
more roses grow on that vine that was pruned. I take dead stem limbs on dead vines off of my roses, but there are some parts of my roses where there are no dead vines. I prune them anyway, because when I prune them, when they grow back, they are thicker in terms of the numbers that are there. Does that make sense? Now,
Yes.
if you prune the roses wrong,
Uh-huh.
then that you create a problem for yourself. Pruning a rose means that you prune it below every 5 leaves. If you don't do it or cut roses below the 5 the 5 leaves at the 5 leaves rather, if you don't do that, then your roses don't grow back. They don't flourish like they would flourish if you cut it right in front of those 5 leaves. So what am I saying? Pruning, you are meticulous. And spiritual pruning, you are meticulous. You make sure that the truth is what you're not only searching for, but the truth is the only thing that you will settle for. And you are not so protective of the truth as you are committed to making sure that the ones who have not experienced truth but are searching for it are not blindsided by things that sound like the other truth, or by things that are mixed up with what we have been told is true, mixed up with the truth itself. So it is a tedious experience to do that. It takes more than just what we call practice. It takes dedication. It takes integrity, because when you begin to function based on the truth, and when you begin to teach it, and you begin to bring it into your life as you live each day, then what happens? You begin to see the difference in you. And when you see the difference in you, that means that you don't have to say a lot when you're interfacing with people, because there's something about you that they experience, even though they will say, I don't know what it is, but something different about you. So you get my drift?
I do.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
pruning, can I'd like to say
Yeah, go ahead.
what I believe I got out of it. So pruning is really the removing of untruths and misconceptions we've been taught within ourselves.
I didn't understand.
Sage?
Pereira, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
I didn't understand what you said.
So pruning for each individually is about removing the misconceptions or the falsehoods we've been taught, weaved in with small bits of truth.
Okay, you're right.
But it has to be done meticulously with someone so that you're not damaging the person.
Yes. I'm asking a
Okay.
question. Not just
Yes.
you, I'm asking a question. We talk about truth and those who are searching for truth and how meticulous we must be. So people who've been damaged with the lie can begin to live according to the truth. What about the people who don't go to church?
They've been damaged too.
But in a different way. The reason people who don't go to church, for the most part, are easier to deal with is because they don't have to purge themselves of a lie that they thought was the truth for the last 30, 40 years, right?
Right.
So if they want to understand truth or the way the universe functions spiritually, then it's easier because there's nothing there to uproot in terms of religion.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions?
Can I take that a little further?
Please,
Oh,
sir.
sir.
When we are talking about purging, and we are talking about how when I mentioned earlier how our minds work. We know that we are spirit, right? So, knowing that we are spirit, then we also must know that spirit is life. And we have to have a constant influx or infusion, however you want to put it, of spirit in order to keep the body alive. This is your body. What do you say? This is my body. So if this is my body, what is the purpose of my body? The purpose of my body is to give me the opportunity to interact with the material world that has been brought into existence. In order for this body to do that, it must be able to move, it must be able to process not only what the eyes see, but also what the eye sees. We have been taught to process what our eyes see, but not the eye. So when we talk about being spirit, we are talking about our making sure that this body continuously inhale spirit. In other words, the inhaling of this body spreads life throughout this body, which is spirit itself. Am I clear so far?
Yes.
If there's anyone that this is not clear to, please say so.
Could you
I'm
repeat that,
processing.
Pastor, please?
Yes.
Say-
Could you, I just was asking, could you repeat that last statement you made?
Okay. When spirit is breath, right? Spirit and breath are the same thing, regardless of whether it is Hebrew, Aramaic, the Kemetic understandings of it, it's the same thing. So this body, the lungs in this body pumps air throughout the body, meaning that it pumps spirit throughout the body. So what I am doing to my body is making sure that my body continues to be functional in this earth. My body is only functional if I continually pump who I am, which is spirit, throughout it. If you take the spirit out, meaning the breath, it does not function. There are no words in the Aramaic, Hebrew, or Kemetic for the idea of a living body. You are the living entity in a body that's only able to function because you are in it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
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 Okay, Jack? Jackie?
Yes, yes, it does. Thank you. Mhm.
Okay. So that being the truth, then there is a reason for us to have these physical bodies. The physical bodies are to carry, or to have, give opportunity to spirit, to us to function in this earth. So when we see things with our eyes, they go into our mind. And the physical manifestation of our mind is the brain. So the things that we see and process with our eyes, that energy goes into our mind, which is our brains. And even if, as I said earlier, you have a memory, that memory is energy. That memory is vibration. Because if you did not see it or hear it, then it does not lodge itself in your brain or in your mind. So when we talk about that, we are talking to ourselves. We are actually really talking to ourselves. How so? We are talking to ourselves, but the conversation that we are having is either with what's right or wrong, which means you're having a conversation with the spiritual essence of your being. And the one who's having the conversation with the essence of your being are the thoughts that you have lodged in your mind or your brain by virtue of interacting with the material world. So when you make an effort to do something that's not right, now you are having a conversation with your mind. The knowledge of good and evil, right and unrightness. When you make a decision that it is going to be rightness that you follow, you have taken another step towards being as above, so is below. However, if you continuously live according to your mind, you will vacillate between doing the right thing and not doing it. You would make excuses for not doing it. Am I clear so far?
Yes.
So your mind
Yes.
being the home of good and evil, and you being life itself, which means that you are the tree of life. The sword that the flaming sword speaks to the protection or the initiation process of being one with who you were created to be. In other words, you are not able to damage your spirit by making decisions that are contrary to what you were brought here to do. What you damage is other humans. What you damage is your material environment. That is the reason when you exit this body, to be absent from the body is to be present with Yahweh, meaning that you go back to the place where you came from. You don't go anywhere. You simply exit the body and it remains in this realm. Does that make sense? Come on. If it doesn't, say so.
It does.
What I'm saying is this. You are the tree of life. What we have been taught causes us to visualize a tree sitting in a garden, and that tree can bear good fruit or bad fruit, but there is a tree that if you eat from it, you have life. The reason I know we've been taught that is because I taught you that. That's what we have been taught through religion. We are, when you say you are spirit, you are life, because there is no life that's not spirit. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Come on, more than Vermeil.
It does.
Yes.
But I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Does the mind work in opposition of the heart? Because,
No,
you
don't
know,
go there.
we're told,
No. I don't want you to go there yet. Because I don't want you to,
Okay,
I don't
all
want
right.
to get off track with that. I'm headed where you're carrying me, okay?
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah. So the life that you are gives life to everything that lives. Let me show you a simple example of that. We say when we exhale, we are giving life to the plants, to the trees around us, because they live on carbon dioxide, right? Yes, James, you're right. So why is it? What's the difference in the breath that you inhale, the spirit that travels through your body? The reason that it is transformed into carbon dioxide is because it is being influenced by physical material elements that's in your body. And when it comes out, it is still life. It gives life to everything around you. Therefore, the physical movement of our bodies, namely our lungs, which is the true pump in the body, pumps out carbon dioxide for the express purpose of keeping everything on earth alive. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I say that we are the tree of life, what I'm also saying is that your mind is the tree of good and evil, the knowledge of good and evil. You're aware of good and evil. Isn't that something that it says the knowledge of good and evil? You're aware of good and evil, but you're less aware of spirit simply because of what we've been taught. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
certainly.
So the inhabitants of the Kushite kingdom did not have that dilemma to deal with, because from early childhood, I believe Ron's research said 2 years old, they are taught
Yes.
who they are. Thank you. They are taught who they are. And being taught who they are, they're being taught that they are spiritual beings. They are one with the universe. The universe is them and they are the universe. That's what they are being taught. So they don't have this dilemma. When we came in contact with conquerors, everything shifted. So now that it has shifted, and believe you me, it was supposed to shift. So everything shifted. Now that it's shifted to a place where our eyes are the primary source of our beliefs. And now we have conversations with ourselves, as we put it. When your mind is talking to itself between good and evil, you are having an opportunity to be initiated for the express purpose of being aware of the spiritual power, the spiritual essence, the spiritual righteousness that you are. What do I mean by that? We have been cerebral for so long, meaning that we have depended on our mind more than our heart so long until we forgot what they are. When we were in church, we were functioning from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, right and wrong, rightness and unrightness. what happened is we had questions that our minds could not answer. So when we began to probe for an understanding of rightness or good, as the Bible writes it, but is rightness. When we began to search for that search, that journey began to show us the fallacies in unrightness. And when we started seeing that, now because our desire and determination to really know who we are, we began to, our spiritual essence began to influence our minds. Are you still with me?
Mm-hmm.
The more our minds are influenced spiritually, the more we become aware that we are God in the earth, that we are the gods of the earth, that we are Elohim. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
As
Yes.
long as you are probing with your mind, you are a member of a church that Julius Caesar's brought into existence. You're a member of the church. As long as you probing with your mind. When you begin to realize you are a spiritual entity and this body is dead without you, and you are the one who has the power to traverse this celestial ball called Earth, bringing insight, bringing awareness, bringing light into this earth, and bringing order to the chaos in this earth. When you begin to do that, now what you are doing is purifying your mind. Because now your mind does not function the way it did when it was full of religion. Does that make sense? Religion says you go die with something. Does it not? Does it not? Religion says you don't want to die, but you want to go to heaven. All of those things are confusing. And what happened to get us where we are, we began to question that. And that's the mind that's beginning to question. But when we started getting answers, we began to see that we are spiritual. And this spiritual essence of who we are it is not our bodies, it is the essence of life itself. It is the creator itself we are one with. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, in saying all of that, what I am saying is this. When you are more in tune with who you are as opposed to who you've been told you are, when you are more in tune with that, the less conflict you have with people around you. Does that make sense?
That resonates.
I know y'all muted, but you can unmute. Does that make sense?
Pastor Jay,
Yes.
it is. So is that the same thing as you were telling us when I asked the question about purging and pruning? Is that the same concept?
Absolutely.
Okay, now I got it.
All the effort tonight that I see is to help us to understand that as long as we are dependent on politics, the power of politics, the power of religion to bring changes, we are not going to see any changes. Does that make sense? The moment that we began to search for the reality of our essence, and we began to function based upon that, all you have to do is read Mayat, now you got it. That's what you are functioning according to. And when you do that, the more you express the truth, the more truth you are shown, and the more you see evilness or unrightness in the earth bubble to the surface. And the reason righteousness causes it to bubble to the surface is because it cannot continue to live in the presence of righteousness. When righteousness is present, everyone begins to see the manifestation of the unrightness that has kept the world in bondage seemingly forever, but it wasn't forever. But that's what it seems like. Right now, righteousness, desire for truth is righteousness. Doing everything you know to do to treat everyone the way you treat yourself or want to be treated, rather. The more you do that, the more in tune you are with your spiritual essence, and the greater that you are in tune with your spiritual essence, the more you are shown, and the more you are shown, the more you can show others. Meaning that the more that you experience from the Creator, from the universe, the more you experience, the more you are able to share. And when you share it, you are not sharing it for them to be smarter. You are sharing it for them to recognize and experience the essence of their being. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, let me give you hopefully a simple example of how we have never left the Creator. We are never, the universe, we are not separate from the universe. If you take, and I've used this example for something else, but I pray that you would see this example. If you take a glass and put it in the ocean and allow that glass to float towards the surface, right? If that glass is full of ocean water, that glass is your body. And the ocean is your spirit. That glass is still a part of the, the water that's in the glass is still a part of the ocean, that spirit. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
So if that is spirit and the glass is your body, then we are never separated from the universe. We have been told that we are. However, when you can see that the spirit essence of your being is one with everything that exists, and your body is simply a vehicle to move you around in this world, in this physical world, so you can do what you're supposed to do. Just like beginning brought Elohim into existence. Elohim brought the bodies into existence. And the bodies that are in existence are for the purpose of us, for us to bring into the earth the same light that exists in spirituality. You can't do that if you don't know yourself. Does that make sense? I'm done.
Yes.
Sage, say that again. Say that last part again, please.
You cannot bring light into the earth if you don't know who you are. The greater your search for light, the greater your desire to be light, the greater your desire to share the light, the more aware you become of your spiritual essence. We say we become more spiritual. It's greater than becoming more spiritual because your body does not. You become more aware. You begin, the mind that causes this body to function according to the material world, this mind now is being repurposed for the benefit of humanity. So what's happening is you have the understanding of the essence of who you are, and now rather than having a mind that's filled with material ways to fix things, rather than having a mind that's filled with philosophical ways to bring a government into existence and control people, rather than having that, when you become aware of the spiritual essence of who you are, now what you have done is renewed your mind. Your mind was new when you were born. Your environment is what made your mind different or made your mind forget that it is dependent upon the energy of you, meaning spirit. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Any questions or comments?
So what you just described was the pruning of the rose bush, how when you prune it at the right time and give it the right nourishment, it has flourished for mankind to take. I see what you're saying.
When
A
we
lot
prune-
has been said, but I got your concept,
okay. In reference
but I
to
don't know what.
rose bush, where we are now, if we had not been purged, we would not be able to bring light into this earth the way we are able to do it. If we had not been purged or pruned, the unrighteousness in this earth would not have bubbled to the top, because it had the power to actually let us die as mere men, not realizing that we are spirit. But because of the determination of a handful of people to realize, understand who they are, and to share it with anybody who wants to listen, we are filling the gap. And the gap that we are filling is the gap that has been separating the spiritual world of understanding from the material world of misunderstanding. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when we are in the gap, or when we feel the gap, then we become the bridge that helps others to extract from the macro the essence, the understanding of the essence of who they are. Their mindset begins to shift. And when their mindset begins to shift, the things that have beset the earth and its inhabitants in a very, very negative way, I use that word loosely, that mindset begins to see what's wrong and desires to correct what's wrong. So what are we doing when we talk to macro? We are actually energizing the world. We are actually infusing a sense of awareness into this earth environment that it needs to experience for the express purpose of being our brother's keeper. Does that make sense? Come on, y'all.
Yeah. Yes,
I know you contemplate, because I know I've said a lot.
Would you
Mr.
say that
Deb-
again? The more putting things in the macro is energizing and infusing the world with a sense of you say?
Awareness of who they are.
awareness.
Why do you think there are so many people in the earth not talking about the universe? Most of the people that you hear, especially young people, they don't say God, they say the universe, don't they?
Yeah.
Why do you
Yeah.
think that's happening? That was not done in a vacuum. the whole idea of transitioning. That was not done in a vacuum. We started talking about transition instead of death. Not everybody talks about it. Where did it come from? Are you seeing what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
My efforts are to help you see the inherent power with which you were brought into existence. Your body doesn't give you any power whatsoever. You are the power source for your body. You are the power source for everything that exists in this earth environment. You are the source that transforms earth consciousness into a spiritual consciousness that is one with the spiritual essence of truth that is above. So as above, so is below. Does that make sense? And I hate to keep asking you, does that make sense? But I don't know what else to do.
That helps.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You're gonna make me say, help me, somebody. So are
This
there
room,
any comments? Go ahead. Please go ahead.
I'd like to ask a question or make a comment. It's one of the two. About a week ago, they uncovered a kind of city tomb in Petra. And one of the big finds so far is supposedly this goblet that looks like the one in Indiana Jones. And it kind of hit me. It's two thoughts came to my mind. It's funny how we in America don't think you should desecrate a grave if you dig it up. But yet we do that as archaeologists. But the second thought that came to me is people are making such an effort to wipe out African history. And this place, it's along Euphrates and the Tigris rivers. And so it seems to me like our history is becoming, the more individuals try to hide it, the more aware we're becoming. So that is also an example of the strength of putting things in the macro. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
There were no efforts to ban books that taught the truth until the truth began to permeate the macro. So what prompted these people to begin banning books? What prompted that movement? They felt something that was different than what they had been accustomed to experiencing. And they began to see something that if we keep allowing these books to be read, the people who we are trying to oppress will begin to see who they really are. And they're going to do us the same way we did them. Because they don't know us. They don't know that that's not who we are. So the books are being banned. And what are the majority of the books are being banned? The books that look like they talk about us. In Texas, the schools are not allowed to teach anything about slavery. Why? Because if you do that, you are exposing the nature of this nation. Makes sense?
It does.
And that they can't allow that. Any other questions or comments? Oh, there's some more stuff in there, but I'm gonna just sit here for a moment to see if you got questions or comments.
I got a question, Rep. You just straighten it up as to what the Wild Science said. Like three Trinity, the God, the God and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Oh, the Son is-
Okay. And you got the body, the mind, and the
body
soul.
and the soul.
Right. Correct me on that right there. I know you had taught it
Not
before,
correct.
but
You don't want me to correct you. You want me to respond to that. Guess what, Charles?
what's
The
that?
Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost,
Uh-huh.
they come from the Trinity that came out of Kemet. George, are you on GC?
Yes, I am.
Do you remember that they Kemetic Trinity?
Well, when Charles was talking about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, we, look at it from the Kemet and Cushite teachings where we have, the Mother, Father, and Son. But as I think about, what Charles asks, and I look at it in reference to the Ankh, where we talk about the first Trinity, the original Trinity from the Cush and Kemetic teachings. I think you spoke about that in the past too, Pastor, in terms of being able to have that understanding metaphorically in terms of where European, society took that from. So again, in terms of, looking at it as far as ISIS,
Yeah.
Peru, it's in those teachings. But I think the Greek spoke of it in terms of ISIS, but we had, again, I apologize, it's not coming to my mind right offhand, but I think that related to, the Christian Kemetic teachings. That's
Yeah, I
my
got
thoughts
it.
on it.
I see it. Thank you.
Sure.
The Trinity was taken from Isis, Osiris, and Heru. The Trinity of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost was actually the Trinity of the Mother, the Father, and the Son. Femininity, masculinity, and the Son, the S-U-N that gives life, because life comes from masculinity and femininity when it becomes one. So the Trinity that we have been taught about in the scriptures is not the Trinity that was original. It's not the original Trinity. It is a manufactured Trinity. And for those of you who may be on for the first time or the second and not heard us talk about this, if you search the history of beginnings for the Catholic Church, it will take you back to the era of Julius Caesar. And you will see that the Catholic Church was brought into existence in Rome. And you say, I'm not a Catholic. What does that have to do with me? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Because Christianity is a Protestant belief, which means that it's a rebellion against its mother, which is the Catholic Church. But all the principles, with the exception of the visible idolatry and the type of ecclesiastical hierarchy they have, it's the same. You celebrate Christmas, you celebrate every holiday that we are called religious holidays. The most holy holiday is is Easter because of the resurrection. That's Catholicism. That is not spirituality. Does that make sense? Charles?
Oh, I thought you were talking about George. Yes, sir, it makes sense.
Okay. No, George triggered that some things in me when he was talking. That's all. Anyone?
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Ron?
Yes, sir. All right. Maybe a good place to take a pause if we don't have any more questions.
Hey, Ron, this is Angela. I wanted to share something right quick before we get off the line.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was wondering if anybody experienced it, but earlier I was outside a couple hours before we got on the line, and I was standing out underneath the trees, and I was speaking to the trees. I was speaking about our existence with the trees, and the trees with existence with us, how we connected. And as I was standing out under the tree, and I had like the branch were hanging down, and I had my hand on, and the trees began to blow. I could see the trees blowing, and to me, I felt like that was the trees' way of letting me know that they understood what I was saying. Just how I feel. But I was just wondering if anybody else had that experience.
My question to you is, do you believe it?
Yep,
Okay,
I do.
that's all that matters. Why? Because we were able to speak to all of the creation until we lost our affinity for spirituality. And if it's your desire to speak to them, it is no different than a dream you have. You have to determine what that dream means to you. And your experience in interfacing with the trees, you determine what the response is based upon your experience, not mine. Make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Ron?
Thank you for sharing it. Thank you.
So you're welcome.
Anyone else? Don't want to cut anyone off. Okay. Thank you. Great discussion this evening. Thank you for your energy, your thoughts, and your meditations. Okay. And hope you have a great week and look forward to Saturday morning. Thanks again.
Hey, you guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Night.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.